Anime is all niche. It's all inherently niche. Animation is just a niche style of work because, and I really think that the only reason that this is the case is that most people are looking for a semblance of reality in the work that they consume, and they struggle to find that through the abstraction of illustration. Case in point, my dad. My dad, he loves nonfiction. He reads a lot of nonfiction. He watches a lot of, he watches a lot of the news. He watches a lot of, which, I would contend about the non-fictional nature of, but, he watches a lot of stuff that purports to be real. He likes movies and shows that are based on true events. He just wants it to be as close to reality as possible so that it gives him something to think about in reality. He doesn't like to think about fantastical ideas that don't mean anything in reality because there's no application. There's nothing he can do to understand the world better. Now, there is, but it just requires more thought, and he doesn't want to do that. It's kind of a waste of fucking time, A lot of people are looking for the abstraction because they want to get further away from reality. They want something that feels real enough to relate to, but takes them far enough from reality that they're not thinking about real life anymore. They're thinking about this cool fantasy world. So I think that anime, in that sense, is inherently dissociative media. It's for people who want to get further from reality. And a big part of my difficulty relating to non-animated media for a long time was that I didn't see enough of myself in reality. I just didn't relate to characters, and part of it was seeing myself as categorically not a woman, and so therefore discounting all women as someone I could relate to, and then never seeing a guy that reminded me of myself, and therefore all of it's wash. And then I watch anime, and it's just far enough away that I'm not thinking about it on that level, but when I analyze it and when I break down what I'm actually coming to it for, it's all identity, self-reification type shit, something that makes me feel like myself, but in a cooler context, or even just more soothing, like when I was in high school watching Hidamari Sketch, it's like, is me, is the way I feel, but what if I was surrounded by 3 great friends, all of whom I could also relate to and thought were cool, that's the appeal of Hidamari Sketch to me. So I think when an obscure thing like an anime gets really popular, it's because it's tapping into, how do I put it? Everybody who likes something niche is categorically in a broader niche bubble, right? And I think that anything that's trying to appeal to that group, has the potential to hit really big with everybody who's in the niche category, or to go straight to a further in part of it, So for instance, people who make really weird fetish content, right? Most of that's probably not going to make it to the whole of the niche sphere. It's going to make it to a smaller sphere inside of that sphere. But if you incorporate that fetishistic content into a story that is more relatable to more people, they might be more willing to look past that fetishistic aspect because they understand that it is for niche people. They understand that aspect is here for the people who are at this part of the niche circle. And if it gets too extreme, that can be off-putting enough. And anime has a big problem with this, where people who are into alternative media in America want to like anime, but they don't want to be pedophiles, So that's been the big difficulty of making anime it's the goal is not to be mainstream. The goal is to be main niche. And I think Jujutsu Kaisen pulls off main niche. And it does that because, yes, it has a bunch of fetishistic specificity, but none of it is hypersexual. And none of it makes you feel like a pedophile. Huge deal for US audiences. Jujutsu Kaisen is one of the least pedophilic anime I can think of. It has almost no characters that are even high school aged, and the ones it has wear the most clothes they possibly could, there's not a ton of hot girls running around or anything like that. And the ones there are, they're all badasses who just look cool. They're not even sexualized that much, And it's not even that there's no sexuality at all in the story, because that would also be unrelatable. It's just tame, And I think, something like Attack on Titan, I can say a lot of the same things about, where you know, it probably appeals really strongly to vor fetishists, but it also isn't focused on that. Lolly shit ruined Made in Abyss somewhat. That's exactly a great example of what I'm talking about, where that series, like, it started off, you know, as a niche manga. It started becoming an anime, and when the anime started coming out, nobody was talking about it initially. And I remember watching the first couple episodes and being like, this has all of the reasons to be the sleeper hit anime that everybody's going to be talking about as like the classic, but it will never reach outside of anime fandom. It'll be popular with everyone who likes anime, but like, it's gonna be, because the limit, I guess, like how do I break this down? I'm trying to think of a gradient of how accepting you are of the sexual, or I won't even call it sexual, the nudity in Made in Abyss, the squick aspects, we'll call them. Like, the spectrum is like, you can find it pretty disturbing, but because you know anime, you're like willing to put up with it begrudgingly, or even just complaining about it openly while watching the show. Or you're on the other end and it's like actively part of the appeal, but that's much smaller category, you know? And I would say that, yeah, Made in Abyss, it basically cannot break the ceiling of being at least familiar enough with anime to be somewhat comfortable. It's not supposed to be comfortable also. The story is supposed to be uncomfortable, but just that aspect that people don't want to be confronted with. People don't want that discomfort. You know, they're fine with the other discomfort in the show. They don't want that discomfort, and I think that limits it. Whereas, like, again, Attack on Titan, the types of discomfort that show portrays, people are fine with. It doesn't make them, you know, feel like they're bad for watching it or immoral somehow because they... You think those pedo vibes have purpose in Abyss? I was like, damn, that show is bonkers and I love it. What makes it weird is that it is unnecessary. Yeah, I think So personally, like I kind of said, I think Made in Abyss is supposed to be really uncomfortable. To me, those scenes are not meant to be like... You're not meant to be like, oh wow, you know, look at her naked, I'm titillated or whatever. No, it's like, I mean, the first time it happens, she's like getting strung up and whipped. And I just don't think that scene would have had as much impact if not for, like, it was so, oh my gosh, like, you know, so taken aback. But that is the severity of the situation. Like, the point of Made in Abyss to me is that everything about it is as dark as it could possibly be. It is the most grim ideas, the most fucked conceptions of human nature, and it's a study on greed. It's about the evil of, you know, of just the endless desire we have to keep going in search of the unknown because we just need to know everything, you know? And the offset to that is that the main character is a cute little girl with an endlessly bubbly personality. Like, which kind of is the only, like, as the story goes on, you kind of think, well, nobody else could survive this situation. Like, nobody else could make it as far as somebody who is so determined that they will swallow all of it, you know, and not let it affect their determination. And so I think there is an importance in showing that depth of vulnerability, that, like, her life is really rough, you know? Like, she gets tied up naked and whipped. She gets, like, her arm fucking cut off, like, you know, by the end of the, I think, first season. Like, it's a really harrowing and brutal show. It should make you uncomfortable. And so, again, that's why I kind of think it's weird when people are like, I want to pick and choose my discomfort, you know? Like, oh, well, this... I loved how dark and fucked up... I loved the plot line about all the abuse they were doing to the children. I just wish they didn't have to show them naked. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, so you'll watch them get tortured, but if they take their clothes off, you feel dirty. Like, I don't get it, you know? Like, it's all dirty. It's all gross. It's all meant to make you feel bad, you know? The fact that it's kind of cutesy is the medicine to make it go down. It's not meant to be, you know... And the characters are not sexualized. They're fucking planks. They look like nothing. They look like children, you know? They're not, like, posed sexily or something. They're fucking mud people, you know? Like, they look like they're made of clay. So, I don't know. To me, the nudity in Made in Abyss never made it feel. It never felt like different from the rest of the package. You know, it didn't feel like. It was neither necessary nor unnecessary. None of it was necessary. No story is necessary, but like the whole thing is just bleak shit. You know, that's the manga, bleak shit, in a really inventive context. But yeah, I guess that's my whole take on that. Anybody else? Anybody else got another rant? Another rant before I wrap it up? Come back later. Anything you want to know right now while I'm in this headspace? I could be in a very different headspace later. You might get a very different answer.